Does it ever feel like every disagreement with your better half ends up with you just beating your head against the wall thinking, why do we always end up in this place? Maybe it's that you've never learned healthy conflict resolution skills. I know, it's a novel idea. We're going to learn those today on Love Lessons.
Real life. Real talk. Real relationships. Faith-based tips, tricks, and challenges to improve your marriage and change your life. It's the Love Lessons podcast with your hosts, Christian counselors and marriage experts, Dr. Zach and Blair Gammon.
I'll tell you something I keep beating my head up against the wall about.
What?
Why you will not match me.
Are we coming back to
We're
this?
back. We're back on this.
We cycled
I'm
all the way
back on
back
my
around.
BS.
You sure are.
Yeah.
You sure are.
So several weeks ago, we talked about how you don't love me. And
That's not exactly how it went, but okay, keep going.
This is another installment of Why Zach is Not Loved lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And you refuse to wear matching outfits. I so desperately want to be that old couple that wears like the tie-dye shirts, right? Mm-hmm. And you won't do it.
No.
However,
I'm not alone, am I?
there is literally not one single person who is on my side about this.
One of our friends did post a picture of matching airbrush shirts from the mountains.
Yes, they went on vacation. Thank you, Devin. Devin, here's the Devin is the only person who ever really supports my
She's
obnoxiousness.
carrying this show.
Yes, she really is. She really is. I think that she gets major enjoyment out of just continuing this back and forth.
Yeah.
And so she does, but I think she also said it's only appropriate on vacation. Is that right? Is that what she said? We've got a picture of her and her husband that we'll show, where they did get matching outfits or matching shirts, but it was just on vacation.
Only appropriate on vacation.
Would you do that on vacation though?
Maybe. There would have to be some stipulations.
What are the stipulations?
Like, where are we at on vacation? Is it a touristy enough place that other people are doing it? Or are we going to be looked at? I'm worried about the opinions of other people. I will gladly say it.
Yeah, so I think there's a difference in doing it in like Gatlinburg versus like Hilton Head. Hilton Head feels like a more classy establishment. That's middle class fancy.
Middle class fancy. There you go. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think that we should, be doing it while we're sunning, on the beach outside of our vacation home in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what it's like to be at a level of wealth where we have a vacation home in the Hamptons.
Is that in New York State?
Right. But yeah, everyone, aside from Devin, by the way, thank you, Devin, for, supporting.
Just move on to the important part. Everyone agrees with me. It's cringy. It's cringe, as the kids say.
I don't care. Just let me live my life.
You can
Why are you so ashamed of me?
Let me live my life. You wear something, and you're allowed to do that. I don't have to match you.
But I need you to.
No.
There is this feeling deep
No, that's a
inside of
want.
me.
That's a deep-seated want.
There is this
You
feeling.
need water. You want me to match you. It's a difference. You need shelter.
I need a 72-hour hold and a Thorazine drip. That's what I need right now, I think. Why are you so ashamed to be married
Not
to me?
ashamed to be married to you.
Show ashamed.
I just don't want to match you. Can I not have some individuality?
No. Two become one flesh, Blair.
But we're not going to wear one big T-shirt together,
We
Zach.
could.
No, we are not. Imagine trying to get anything done with both of us in one shirt. Don't go there.
We should get a 10X T-shirt and wear it and do love lessons in that one shirt.
We would look
We would
like
tie our
conjoined
hands.
twins.
We would tie one of our hands to our side and we could just both. So it'd be reverse potato sack races when you were a kid.
How did we get here?
I don't know.
Can we get out of this?
No, it's too late. We're already in it.
Stuck in the shirt.
Yeah, this is.
We're stuck in the shared shirt at this point.
Love Lessons is a really bad shared outfit today.
That's it.
I don't know what to tell you folks. Sorry you're here.
But welcome.
But welcome to Love Lessons. Here we are.
Do you want to know something that recently occurred?
I would love to know something that recently occurred.
that I am curious how other people handle it.
Okay. Are you putting shame on my name right now?
No, not shame, but I do have questions.
Okay.
So
I have lessons.
let's talk about like going out to eat or having something delivered and tipping. Because I'm curious how other couples handle this. If they're on the same page with like how much and what to tip, like what percentage, and like when it's appropriate versus not.
Well, I mean, tipping fatigue is a thing. Like, everybody wants a tip now.
Yes.
Somebody shared on Facebook, and I had seen it a couple of times, and I thought it was a joke, but this I'm pretty sure was serious. Somebody had shared that their landlord sent out an email. I guess whoever they rent from, they can pay online for their. I guess that's what the people do now. I don't know. I don't know how any of this works. I just know the house payment gets automatically drafted from our bank account. I don't have to tip. But anyway, the point is that when they went online to, or they got an email about paying online, there was a place for them to leave a tip for their landlord.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, here's a tip. Fix the leak.
Right. Yeah. Change out the air filters.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Every 3 months. I wish I had a landlord to come change our air filters.
See, that's supposed to be the benefit of renting. Somebody handles that.
Yeah.
I need a
property
I don't have
manager.
anybody that handles
I
that.
need a property manager. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, everybody wants it. We went into Hardee's the other day and ordered at the counter where we were going to have to pick our own food up, eat, and bus our own table.
And had the worst service that I have had in a long time anyway.
And they still said, "Do you want to leave a tip?"
Yeah. Here's a tip.
Here's a tip. I've got
Train your
one
staff
for you.
better.
So the situation that came to mind.
Wait, it's really ironic that I'm making all of these statements because I'm the issue with tips in our relationship.
Exactly. That's what I want to get at here. Here's what came to mind. We ordered pizza one night, and the lady delivers it, and you come back from picking it up from the front door into the kitchen, and you're like, "Oh, she was nice. She thanked me for her tip." And I was like,
was really thankful for her tip.
"Yeah." And I said, "Well, how much did you tip her?" And you said, "I don't know, whatever the app told me to, like 18%. And I said, "Zach, that came to like $12. You tipped the pizza delivery people $12? No wonder she was so thankful for this tip."
God wants us to be generous.
Don't Jesus shoot me right now. Yes, he does. But he also wants us to be smart with our money, right? And you're like, I don't know, 18% sounds good for pizza delivery.
Listen.
Like, these people are paid a minimum wage or whatever their wage is, and tips are on top of it. It's not like they're waitresses where they make like $2 an hour and they live off their tips.
Listen.
And like one time, $12 is cool. But like if you're throwing out 18 or 20% every time we get like something delivered, or we go somewhere that they don't actually like bus our tables and bring us like drinks, then we're going to have to cut back on our eating out.
There's just a lot of pressure on me. Because not only now are they asking for tips, but they give suggested tip amounts.
They do. And is that how it happened? Did they suggest to you what you should have done?
Yes. It said, my 3 options, well, there were 4 options. There was like 18%, 20%, and 25%, and then other. And I can't do tipping math. Like we've talked about before, I can't do toilet paper math. Girl math is just obnoxious. Like, I don't do math, okay? I took AP statistics in high school so that in college I would never have to take a math class.
So you went
And
with the lowest thing.
Just about killed me. And I went with the lowest thing because that was the option that was presented to me.
Instead of doing
aside from-
other and like making, because you can't do math. So that's how
Listen,
people
and
need to
listen,
get one over on you. is
Here's
what
the
I'm
deal. Yeah, we accept tips on love lessons. Just go to lovelessons.fm/donate.
They're going to send a tip in, all right.
You can give us tips on how poorly we're doing at hello@lovelessons.fm. We just live in this society where it just bombards you, and I don't do math.
It pressured you into it.
Yes.
It like tip pressured you into doing it.
We were in line at Starbucks maybe recently, and I do give some kind of small tip at Starbucks because like there is an art to being a barista at Starbucks, and I'm not smart enough to figure
But
it out.
are you giving 20%,
No.
18%?
No, I'll just give like $3 or $4.
Wait, babe.
If we're both ordering, I'll give $3 or $4.
If we're both ordering
Okay,
$3
maybe
or
that
$4,
still is.
it's still 18 to
Yeah,
20%.
that is true.
Are you kidding me right now? I've got to take away your card.
Okay. If they're staring at me, or if it's just suggested in the app, I just panic and I just push whatever feels
Can you
right.
please stop doing that? I don't know, babe. I don't know why I spent $500. She was looking at me and she suggested it, and so I did it.
But so what's funny is though that there are times that I get really irritated at the tip expectation, because people used to have like little tip jars and it would say tips are never expected but always appreciated.
Yeah.
And now they like.
Yeah.
But I don't remember when. But here's what I want to know. Tipping, back in my day, tipping used to be something that you gave based upon the level of service that you received and the quality of service that you received, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it that when we go to a restaurant and we receive bad service, like I'm not talking about like mediocre service, I'm talking about really poor service, that your standard still starts at 20% for the server? Like, we have been in situations where the server has been like not just inattentive, but like straight up rude, like annoyed that we place an order, and we're millennials, so we're not trying to rock the boat here. We're not Karens. We're not asking for a whole lot, and the service can still be really bad. And you're like, no, you can't tip 15%. You've got to tip. Why is it that you have this standard at restaurants, but I can't give the barista $4?
Well, the difference is their hourly rate. If they're a waiter or waitress or server at a restaurant, they're making $2.13 an hour or whatever it is. They're not making a livable wage, which we could debate a livable wage, which is not what we're here to do. But the barista
Why are we here?
Are you having an existential crisis right now?
Where am I?
Do you smell toast?
No.
But
Just sadness.
the barista or any of those places that are asking for tips these days, the delivery driver, most of them are making above minimum wage.
Okay.
And so in my mind, your company is already paying you a certain wage that they and you, because you accepted that employment contract, right? Here I go in my HR brain, that you agree to make. And so anything above and beyond is great, but it's not necessarily base wage that you should be basing your financial, whatever
I
on.
don't disagree with any of that.
So to me, logically, I go, okay, you already have this employment agreement. Tips are above and beyond. They're always appreciated, never expected. But with servers, I believe that it is. Like, that is, we are helping them make a livable wage.
With the understanding as part of their employment agreement that good service is expected. Go read any job description for any server, and it is going to tell you that friendly service is expected, that you are to be helpful, that you're to be all of these things. And if you are rude and hateful, then you have not met the expectation to receive that tip.
Disagree with that. And if it's something extreme like that, then we're gonna leave less than 20%. There have been times that I've done it. It's gonna have to be pretty extreme though for me to do that.
I don't know if there's ever been a time that you've ever left anything less than 20.
I can think of several times that I've left
I think you're making this
15%.
up. Now, I will say this. I will never not tip a server. Unless, like, they just came out and threw food at me, like, literally threw it.
Yeah.
I would never not tip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Here's what I know.
I know a lot of this is generational too.
This is true. I have older family members who will leave a $2 tip on a $60 bill.
Or leave the rest of your change, or
Yes.
leave nothing at
and
all.
That irritates the heck out of me.
Yeah, so then you're throwing extra cash on
Yes.
the table as that we walk away
The
and
other
make
thing
up
that
for it.
irritates me that the older generation does. Listen, boomers, if you're listening and you're getting all, your knickers in a twist here, y'all have been complaining about millennials and Gen Z for the last 15 years, so get over it. 20 years. Anyway, the rant was free. I really don't like when boomers make it a point as they're leaving to go like hunt down the server when they're in the middle of waiting on another table and hand them the money like they're doing them some kind of personal favor and like bestowing great riches on them when all you did was hand them a $5 bill.
I want to know why they do that. Are they worried like it's going to get taken off the table by like another customer, or maybe the bus person's going to take it? Like, I wonder if they're worried it's not going to get to that person.
Here's my assumption. They want to hear the server say, "Thank you so much." I think it's an ego thing.
And you were dutifully giving because you were pressured.
I would love to be one of those people that like reaches a level of wealth where I could totally give somebody like $1,000 tip at a restaurant.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like not to like I wouldn't want to like even like make them feel awkward about it. Like I would just leave it on a receipt or something.
And just go.
And
Yeah.
just go. Like I would love to be that person. I think that's so cool when people do that.
Yeah.
So, but alas, I'll never reach that level of wealth because I'm paying 18 to 20% in tips every time that I go to Starbucks.
I cannot believe you're giving $3 or $4.
It just feels right.
Feelings are not fact. Feelings are not fact. What do we talk about to people in therapy all of the time? Just because you feel that way does not mean that that's reality.
I just feel like.
I don't care what you feel like. My
Clearly.
bank account does not care what
Clearly.
you feel like.
Clearly. Here's what I want to know.
You know what?
Have we
I
ever
will
been-
never wear matching clothes with you as long as you do this.
I can change it and you would never wear
I
matching
would
clothes
consider it
anywhere.
closer if you.
Yeah, okay. Have our lights ever been shut off in the okay, not early on because I was bad with money, but in the last, since I've been an actual adult, have our lights ever been shut off? Except for that one time that I forgot to pay the bill.
I think you just
2
need to
years
nix
ago.
this completely. Nix it completely. Mix it
Love
completely.
lessons will appreciate this. So early on in our relationship, I was awful with money, right? Like overdrafted bank accounts. You literally did have to take my debit card away, and it took me a long time to
I
earn
sure did.
spending responsibility back. And then over the years, because you hate managing the finances, after I proved myself capable of actually managing the finances, I have not only gained debit card back, but I don't even know that you could log into our bank account right now if you tried.
It's not completely true. Anyway, go ahead.
I think you could figure it out if you had to, if I died. But the point is that I manage the finances now. So I pay the bills and whatnot. And
Zach has ADHD.
I do.
And Zach forgets what he's doing.
He does.
He spins in a circle a lot of times where he was like, oh no, I was going to do this. And then you just walk in and you're like, oh wow, like
There's just piles of stuff
the
everywhere.
mainframe has glitched. What are we doing?
So I think it's been like 2 years now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
A year and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
I was getting ready for work one morning, I think. I'm like in the shower, and all of a sudden the lights go out. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I guess there's a power outage.
There was.
There was.
At our house.
At our specific address. So I pull up our power company's outage map, and there are no outages reported. I'm like, what's going on? And so I go like flipping stuff. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to call and report an outage. So I called the power company, talked to customer service. And the lady was like, hey, I need to report an outage. And the lady was like, okay, what's your address? So I tell her. And she said, there are no outages in your area, sir. And I said, well, clearly there is, because the lights aren't working. And so she pulls up my account and she said, sir, you've been disconnected for non-payment. And I was like, what?
Yep.
And I don't know that I have ever, I wasn't being mean to this lady, but it was clear that I was getting irritated because she was saying like there's an outage or there's no outage. And I was like, clearly there is. Never once considering the fact that I might have something to do with this situation. And so like I said, I am so sorry. And I said, what do I need to do to make this work again? It was like a bad breakup. I was begging her not to leave. Come back. The light in my life is gone. Please come back. And so she was very gracious, and I paid the bill over the phone and like the $30 reconnection fee. And she said, okay, now it'll be a couple hours, before they're able to get back out there. Mind you, I'm still soaking wet. Like, they still hadn't finished getting ready. Now I have to get ready in the dark.
What about the stuff in our refrigerator and freezer? That's what I was thinking about.
It was only a couple hours.
Yeah.
That happened to the stuff. Did you have to replace anything in the fridge or the freezer? No.
No, but that's where my brain immediately goes. I'm not worried about you getting ready in the dark. Consequences for actions.
Okay, well, that was my concern. And they got the lights turned on, and I was mortified. Thankfully, shortly after that, they finally got it set up where you can go online into your account and manage like automatic draft from your bank account. So now like the electric bill and the water and all that's together, but then the gas bill
we don't
and
have to worry
everything
about this anymore.
is all automated. So now I just get an email receipt that says, thanks for your payment.
So when you asked me that question,
What was the question? Have we ever? But it had nothing to do with my tipping.
No, but it was still not the best analogy because yes. And then, early on in our relationship, that's what caused me to say I was moving back on was got home from work and our lights were cut off and we had no money to turn them back on. And I was like, screw this, I'm leaving this town.
I was young.
And I moved back 4 hours and I said, you can come with me or not. And you decided to come with me. So I was triggered when you texted me and said, hey, our lights got cut off this morning. I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, I just forgot to pay the bill.
Actually, and then your second, I don't know, it wasn't a question. It was, but you said, we live in too nice of a neighborhood for our lights to be getting shut off. What happens if the neighbors find out? And I'm like, I guess they'll know that I also forgot to pay the bill. Here's what I can say. As someone who, because we were like flat broke for, a few years early on in our marriage, there's a very different feeling of, oh crap, my lights have gotten shut off and I can't afford to pay this bill versus, why am I such an idiot? How can I have forgotten to pay this bill?
Yeah.
And please take my money.
Yeah.
So,
The shame is not as deep.
no.
So do you want to hit me?
I mean, that feels extreme.
Hit me with a fun fact.
Oh, I can hit you with a fun fact.
Okay.
So this is a nice, also fun fact. Okay.
It's like a nice, warm, sunny day.
Yeah.
In fact form.
It's some good news
Okay.
on love lessons. So the risk of divorce for people who are married for at least 5 years is significantly lower than it is for people who have been married for a shorter amount of time.
Okay, so 5 years or more.
Yeah, your chances are much higher of maintaining a successful relationship.
Okay.
So research shows that nearly every person does think about divorce at least once it crosses their mind. Maybe not necessarily strongly considering it, but maybe the thought of, what did I get myself into? Is this really working or whatnot? But most people, according to this survey, really do want to stay married and work their problems out. So I think that maybe most people are jaded because you either see somebody's highlight reel on Facebook,
right,
or you don't hear anything until everything falls apart.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then, it's portrayed, I'm not blaming the media for everything because I hate when people do that. My life's terrible because of CNN. No, your life's terrible because you make poor choices. But the point is, that has nothing to do with fun fact. The point is that we oftentimes only hear about bad news. And so we think that divorce is like super prevalent, but really a majority of people do want to make their relationship work. And I think that maybe we're even more jaded because of just the type of work that we do.
Sure.
Because we typically only talk to people when they're in crisis. And so, but
a large part of what we do is talking to people in crisis about recalling the good times.
yes,
Getting perspective is so important. Like, can you take a second? We have this tactic where it's all falling apart, but take me back to how y'all met. How did you get engaged? And a lot of times that will help to bring a little bit of levity to the situation, even if it's a tough conversation, because they have shifted their perspective a little bit and they're thinking about happier times. That's not fixing your problems, but it is helping to, emotionally regulate you a little bit and to recall, okay, this person's not completely horrible. I did make a choice to marry them. We did have some good moments at some point.
exactly. And it's, I think that oftentimes one of the most beneficial things that a marriage counselor can do is just to simply offer some perspective, right? Like you're in the middle of this. It's so hard for you to see, but take a step back and recognize the big picture here, right?
And your marriage counselor can do that because they're not in your marriage. They're not emotionally invested and tied to it like you are.
Yeah.
And so having that third party that can help you see that perspective is important. The challenge is you accepting that perspective, you choosing that you want to see something different than what you're seeing.
Exactly.
Do you want to know what's amazing to me?
How handsome I am.
No. I mean, yes, but no, that's not what I was getting at. Do you want to know what's amazing to me?
How lucky you are to be married to me.
No. I'm trying to set this up so you respond to me. Do you want to know what's amazing to me?
What's amazing to you, Blair?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's amazing to me is that when we go to school, we go to geometry class and algebra class, and they teach us, the Pythagorean theorem and why y equals mx plus b. And
Say that 10 times fast.
No.
Pythagorean theorem. Oh.
And then we go to biology, and they teach us that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Great, cool. And then we become an adult, and no one ever taught us how to do taxes. Apparently, no one ever taught you how to tip appropriately.
Fair.
And we're also not taught how to resolve conflict in a successful, appropriate way.
Yes.
We're not taught anything emotionally, how to handle. It's just like, do the best you can.
Well, and we, people our age, and I would say probably those who are 10 to 15 years older than us, and certainly 10 to 15 years younger than us, also grew up in households where divorce was incredibly common.
Yeah.
And if not divorce, then certainly just parents who were miserable because they also didn't know
Right.
how to resolve conflict. And so we just grow up repeating these cycles.
Yeah, it's a cycle. It's a generational thing that kind of gets passed down, and it evolves a bit over time. But successful conflict resolution really depends on our ability to do several different things.
Yeah.
And we're not taught those things.
But they're also not incredibly difficult either.
No, you just have to be aware that they exist and that
Yes.
there is action that you need to take to successfully resolve conflict. Because when conflict happens, like we've talked about before, we usually want to run the other way or we want to ignore it. Some people want to address it, but it's more so let's address it so that we no longer have this conflict, not necessarily because they want to address it. They just want to get through it.
Yes. I don't want to feel bad anymore. I don't want you upset with me. So
Right.
let's sweep it under the rug.
Let's get over this as quickly as we can. But what if we told you that having the ability to successfully resolve conflict creates emotional maturity in you
And intimacy.
and intimacy in your relationship? What if we told you having conflict could actually be healthy for your relationship because you could create an environment where you're using some of these tools and it creates more intimacy?
Yeah.
But you have to know to use them. Because if you don't, then it's going to cause worse issues, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to make a lot of emotional repairs instead of creating intimacy.
You're going to end up repeating what you know and what you've seen or what you think is appropriate based
Right.
on like what's on television or stories that you've heard. And it never works.
Right. So let's chat. Let's dive into these.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
So there are four basic, these are very basic.
Yeah.
We could talk about this for, weeks.
And we will.
And
We
we
have
will.
been talking about conflict resolution. We're going to continue.
But these four tips are meant to be incredibly easy things that you can implement on your own. And before we jump into these, let me say this too. We've touched on this before, but it's worth repeating again because people tend to forget pretty easily. One person in the relationship can start doing these things and see some big impacts, right? This doesn't require a huge change on both spouses. It's great if it is.
Sure.
But if the other person is digging their heels in and they're just not in a place where they can try to help the relationship succeed, there are still things that you can do to make impacts, the good impacts, healthy impacts on the relationship, right?
That's a good point.
So here's point number one. Manage stress while remaining alert and calm.
That's good.
Those two things often feel like they don't belong together, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's some stressfulness.
Yep.
Let's be calm, right? Because oftentimes, like stress and frustration and irritation means that our hair's on fire.
Right.
We're running around like a crazy person.
So what you need to understand in this is that you need to know ahead of time that conflict is going to stress you out. And so if that happens, when it happens, you need to have a plan in place of how you're going to remain calm while under pressure. So don't be hit blindsided. Don't be unexpected, if you will, in this, in being caught in this thinking, oh my gosh, this conflict, it's stressing me out. I'm so upset. Yeah, you're going to be. So how are we going to handle that when that happens so that you can make sure that you remain calm so that you're able to actually accomplish healthy conflict resolution?
Exactly. Exactly. It's so important because when we are calm, everything makes so much more sense, right? When we are upset, when we're angry, and when we're frustrated, we can just get irrational, right?
Yes.
And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're throwing a hissy fit. It might, but it's just difficult to think clearly.
Yeah, your irrational thinking in your brain.
Yes. We've talked about that before. Our stinking thinking can cause, it can make us believe things that just aren't true.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we're calm, we have this ability to be able to actually look at the situation somewhat objectively and to be able to look at verbal cues and even nonverbal cues that the other person is saying. So when we see our spouse start to cross their arms or that leg starts or foot starts tapping or whatever the issue is, we know, okay, so I've struck a nerve here. What can I do to help diffuse this situation so that we can still keep having this conversation, for example?
Yeah. That's good. So the next one kind of goes into this, controlling your emotions and your behavior. So if you're able to stay calm, you're able to control these. If you're not able to stay calm, then your emotions and your behavior are likely to be erratic or responsive to what the other person is saying, not necessarily to trying to resolve the conflict.
Yeah.
And so our emotions and our behavior really need to try to be aligned with resolving that conflict. So how do you do that?
Yeah.
I can sit here all day long and say, you need to try to control your emotions and behaviors. And you can say, cool, Blair, if I knew how to do that, then I would have been doing it my entire life.
Right. Thank you for this
Thank you
groundbreaking
for
information.
Yes, groundbreaking information.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I'll say is that distance or pursuer tool that we've talked about is really key here. The reason that you're doing that is to control your emotions and your behaviors so that you don't get to a point emotionally that you are too unpredictable and you're too elevated to actually resolve conflict. So that's a really great tool to be able to take a break, walk away with assurance that you're going to come back to the table, but that you have time to actually get out of that fight or flight mode that your brain gets into where you can't accomplish anything, and walk away to calm down to then be able to make logical choices out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And, how many times over the years have you told people you are responsible for your own emotions? You have to take responsibility for the way that you feel. No one can make you feel any kind of way.
Yeah, if you're in my office and you say, he just made me so mad. Depending on the situation, I'm in my head, I'm thinking it, but I might not say it depending on where we're at and what we're trying to accomplish. But I may say, no one can make you feel it. Now, it might be a situation where it would be valid that most humans would feel upset based off of what's happened. But you are still making an active choice to get angry or to be sad or to be offended or frustrated or whatever emotion you're choosing. You own that emotion. You're still choosing that. Maybe for good reason.
Yeah.
But you're still choosing it. And so it's important from an emotional maturity standpoint to recognize that that is your emotion that you're choosing to have, just like you can choose to not have it.
Yeah. That's I think it's important to recognize that we can validate an emotion while recognizing at the same time that we still have to take responsibility for our own emotions,
Yes.
right? If I ask you to, swing by the post office and pick up a package for me, and it's really important to me, and you forget to do that, I can be upset that you didn't do that. And that's a fair emotion to have.
Sure.
But you didn't make me upset. I chose to be upset because of the situation that's going on. And both of those things can coexist at the same time, Your spouse can say something really hurtful and demeaning to you. And while I would agree, I think it's valid that you feel hurt or angry or whatever the emotion is by that, it doesn't mean that that person made you feel that way because you are trying to make them responsible for your emotions. And that's just not how it works.
Pro tip here. If you are still working on some of these tools with your spouse, don't tell them, well, you're choosing that emotion.
Yeah, that doesn't
Don't
work.
use that as therapy ammunition because it will not go well. Now, maybe you get to a point in your relationship where you're able to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry for my part in it, but you are choosing to live in that. Okay, you might be able to, but don't come out of that and be like, you know what? You're just choosing to be mad right now, and that's your choice.
Yeah.
Will not go well for you.
Also, don't say, sorry, you feel that way.
Yeah. Let me invalidate your feelings in one sentence.
Right. But that is something that we have done in the last, handful of years. We've gotten to a point to where we can, not that it's our responsibility, if you make me upset, no, if I'm upset because of something you've done, you don't come claiming responsibility, but you'll also say, hey, I'm sorry, that happened and that led you to where you are, or I'm sorry that you're upset. And that, not in a demeaning way, but like, hey, I'm sorry you're mad.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for what
you're
part I
emotional.
played in
Yeah,
that.
because we almost always play a part in it.
Yeah.
Very rarely do we not have any sort of responsibility to it. And so maybe that other person chose the emotion, but we created an environment that allowed them to choose that emotion.
Yeah.
So I want to take you through something here. So when we talk about controlling your emotions and behaviors, it's important that you understand what got you to those emotions and behaviors. And so it's sequential. It's a line. So our thoughts create emotions, and from those emotions, we take action. We have behaviors.
Yes.
And so for me to tell you, you need to control your emotions and behaviors, there are tactics we can give you: walking away, taking some breaths. But what you really are trying to do is create space for you to calm down, for you to de-escalate in your emotions and behaviors to get back to rational thinking.
Yes.
Because that's where you need to do self-talk. That's where we need to have a conversation in our brain and go, okay, I said this and it made them say that, and they were probably triggered in what they, like, having that logical conversation, walking through what has happened and trying to get to the root of why it happened. Was it about the fact that they didn't do the dishes? Or was it about the fact that I felt disrespected after all of the work that I've done all day long, that I came home to a sink full of dishes that I asked that they would do and they didn't, and then I, elevated from there and it got. So maybe we go back to the table and say, hey, what I realize is that I feel disrespected. Again, those are emotions that we're choosing, but what was underneath is that I felt disrespected. And I felt like I didn't matter. I felt like I was invalidated because I have worked hard and I asked for this to get done and it didn't.
Yeah.
And maybe that leaves some room for them to say, you know what, I didn't get to do it because this other really important thing popped up that was a bigger deal. And then you're able to actually have a conversation about it instead of being upset that what you wanted didn't happen because you didn't create any room for understanding what happened in this made up scenario that I have that I know everyone's probably dealt with. So we have to get back to rational thinking, but you cannot do that until you were able to control your emotions and your behaviors.
And what I see, this is kind of an aside, but I think it's important. What I see a lot of times in couples is that scenario can come up and the person can even say, hey, this is how I'm feeling because of this. This is what it feels like to me. And the other person, still feels the need to defend themselves.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't know what kind of day I've had. There is so much freedom when a couple can get to a point where one person can say, hey, here's how I'm feeling and here's why I'm feeling it. And the other person can just say, you know what? I'm sorry. It just slipped my mind. It's not because you're not important. It's not because I don't care about all the things that you've done. I just didn't do it today. I'm really sorry. And there's freedom in that because the other person can be like, you know what, it's all right. Like we'll take care of it, because both people are able to have a healthy conversation because it's calm.
Right.
Because you're not walking in and you don't start slamming stuff and I guess I've got to do everything around here and everything. And there is so much freedom in being able to say, hey babe, there's no excuse. I just didn't do it today.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it.
And that person not responding, listening to respond, you're kind of done at that point,
Yeah. Another thing, too, I think is important. I think therapists and counselors get a bad rap because the question is, how do you feel about that? Or why how did that make you feel? Why did you feel that way? But the reason that gets asked so much is because if that becomes our internal thought process, then we begin doing some investigation into why it is that we're behaving this way. If your spouse didn't do the dishes and you come home and you see a sink full of dishes after everything you've done and you start slamming stuff and you're thinking in your head, they don't care about me, and then the other person asks what's wrong and you're like, nothing, I'm fine.
It's fine.
Why are
Clearly
you doing
it's
that?
not fine.
Right. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, what is motivating you to communicate your displeasure about whatever's happened in that way? Which
brings us to our next point, actually, which is to pay attention to the feelings being expressed as well as the spoken words of the other person.
Yeah.
And I think that when people start, they get into these habits of I'm fine, and clearly everything is not fine. We've talked about this before, right? If the person wants to stomp around saying they're fine, then take what they're saying at face value to an extent, as healthily as you can. But at the same time, if you're that person where you're like, nope, everything's fine and everything is not fine, why is that your go-to? Are you wanting the other person to grovel? Tell me what it is, babe.
It's a
what
form
did I
of
do?
manipulation.
Yeah. Or is it because that's how mom always handled it when she was mad at dad, and so you think that's the way that we're supposed to handle conflict? Or is it because you're thinking in your head, well, it's always going to be this way, nothing's ever going to change, so then what's the point? Okay, well, that's not true, because what have you done to change the situation besides stomping around and being pissed off about it? There are a number of things that you have to, that to me is the peak of not taking responsibility for anything. You think that you're justified and you're in the right and you're the one stomping around when in reality, you're now not taking responsibility for your own emotions.
Yeah, that's good.
They never do anything for me. They never do what I ask. They never follow. And this is not just a wife being mad at the husband issue. This is equally, it can go the other direction.
Absolutely.
But why don't they love me? Why doesn't she ever care about how I'm feeling? Why doesn't he ever want to help me, or anything like that? That's a real easy cop out. And then we're just able to build resentment and frustration.
Right.
And then all of that comes back up again the next time that you get into something.
Yeah.
And it's this endless cycle.
Yeah. You also want to pay attention to the feelings that are being expressed, because if your spouse is expressing to you how they're feeling and you disagree and you have a conflict, you have the responsibility of resolving that conflict and making emotional repairs. And by emotional repairs, it's what do we need to do to repair, to get back to where we were, or even further, if you can, to build and go deeper and further in our intimacy.
Yeah.
And if you are not paying attention to the emotions that are expressed, the feelings that are being expressed, then you are not accepting their bid for invitation, as it's called.
Yeah.
If they are trying to communicate with you about a situation, they are sending you a bid, right? They're inviting you to a conversation with them. And if you're ignoring that, then you're not accepting that invitation. And okay, well, maybe you don't the first time and maybe you don't the second time. But how many times, for example, if you have a group of friends and they invite you to go out with them and you tell them no the first time and the 5th time and the 10th time, by maybe the 20th time, they're going to stop inviting you. They're going to say, this person has shown us history repeatedly that they're not interested in this relationship of going out with us. And so we're not going to invite them. Now, you could choose to be offended by that, but in reality, you're living in the reality that you created, in the environment that you created.
Yeah.
Same thing in our relationship. If they are inviting you to a conversation, if they're talking about their feelings, if they're trying to resolve conflict and you are uninterested in coming to the table to do so, at some point they're going to decide they don't want to have this conversation with you because they're going to be so upset and bitter and angry and resentful. Don't be surprised when that happens.
Yeah.
You are living in the reality you created.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
pay attention to what's being expressed, because that is them trying to have a relationship with you.
And to your point, something that you kind of touched on, it's really easy to disagree with somebody about their emotion or think that their emotion is not justified,
yes.
right? I don't think that you should be mad about that. Okay, I don't care what you think I should be mad about.
Because your emotion is yours.
Right.
Like we've talked
Right.
about.
So that's the opposite. It's like that person, you're trying to take away the responsibility or the person's ability to have that emotion. And that is equally unfair and damaging, right?
Just because you wouldn't get mad about a situation doesn't mean that another person reasonably would get upset about that.
Yeah.
And that just because your opinion is they shouldn't be upset about it doesn't mean they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's their own reality.
You can disagree about the facts around the situation.
Sure.
And you can disagree about how the situation should be handled, but if that person is mad about something, let them be mad. If there is so many marriages could be so much better if people were just allowed to be mad and to sit in that for a few minutes, right?
That actually goes into our next point.
Look at that segue.
Being aware and respectful of our differences. You may have a difference about what upsets one of you versus the other, but you can still validate that person has that experience and that's their truth, that's their reality, that's their emotions, it's their feelings. It doesn't have to be yours, but just because it's not yours doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
So being aware and respectful of our differences, this is such a key point. I can tell you in marriage counseling, because people will come in and they'll be on opposite sides. They'll not know how to compromise or just not know how to get through a certain issue. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is that they have more respect for themselves or more desire to be right than they have love and respect for their spouse.
Yes. Yeah.
And when they realize that, sometimes when they get that gut punch, they're like, oh, I didn't mean to. And most of the time they don't. Like, I'm like, I understand you didn't mean to.
We just live in a society where we're all like searching for this significance, and that turns into us shouting from the rooftops that we're the one who has it figured out.
Yes. The problem is when you realize, no, I don't respect them and I don't desire to grow that. Then it's like, well, what do you want to do with this? How are you going to fix this? Because that respect, that core respect and love and spirit of charity and honor that we're supposed to have for our spouse is the core to where a lot of these things stem from.
Exactly.
And if you don't have that, then it's really hard to make positive things stem when there's no root.
Yeah. Nothing's going to grow. You know, how many times, and this is not something that we've always been successful at, but how many times have we said something along the lines of, I don't get why you feel that way, but like, I want to support you. Like, I'm sorry you feel that way, not in a disrespectful or a condescending way, but just in a like, I'm sorry that's how you feel about it. I don't get it, but
I'm sorry you're going through that.
Yeah, but I appreciate that you're upset about it.
And how can I support you in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very big on that because, like, we've told the mouse story before, right? It was a big deal to me. I was scared that mouse jumped on me, but you were like, no big deal, whatever. You know, you now say if it happened to you, you know, it would be a big deal, which is true too, right? That's reality too in life. But you were able to support me, you know, in that. Like, it was a big deal to me, but it wasn't to you.
Right.
So understanding that we have to be respectful if someone has an opinion that's different than ours, or we're coping with something in a different way. You know, we want to hold each other accountable and love each other and have respect. We also need to understand that people are different.
Yeah.
And they're going to handle things differently. They're going to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
God made us all very unique. Psalm 139 tells us that.
Yeah.
And so we need to lean into what God created us, not try to conform to be what we think someone else thinks we should be.
Exactly.
Or make little tiny versions of ourselves.
Here's an easy analogy for people who are hearing this and they're thinking there is no possible way this can even happen in a relationship. Most people who are married do not have the same tastes exactly when it comes to like entertainment, to like music, TV, etc., right? Etc. I love stupid sci-fi shows, right? You know this. You hate sci-fi. If there is an alien or a spaceship or
You're in, bud.
then like you're done, right?
You're in and I'm out.
Right. And so there are like 3 different shows that I like on Apple TV, and all of them in the last month have dropped new seasons. And so I like busted up into, I think you were getting ready for bed or something the other night, and I like busted up into the bedroom and I'm like, babe, guess what? There's this, and this is on, and I'm so excited. And you were like, okay, have at it. Like, glad for you. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't need you to invest the time in watching this with me. Just be excited for me. And you're like, I'm really happy for you. Like, are you going to go watch it right now? And that seems silly, but there are so many times where somebody can be upset about something and you're like, to me personally, I wouldn't react that way. It's not a big deal, but absolutely, I'm sorry that you're upset, right? Even if the thing that you're upset at is me, I don't get why you're upset. I wouldn't be upset, but I'm sorry that that's what's happening. And, you know, I want you to know that I care about you in that. So
think about it like this. If you go out to get ice cream with your spouse and they get vanilla because they love vanilla, and you get chocolate because you love chocolate, are either of you wrong?
No.
Are you going to give them a hard time? A true hard time, and not just, you know,
being silly
and humorous, but are you really and truly going to give them a hard time about liking vanilla ice cream, or vice versa, liking chocolate ice cream?
Right.
No.
Of course not.
And ice cream is a silly analogy, but it's the same concept we carry through to some of these deep things. You're going to be like, okay, they like vanilla, and I like different strokes for different folks. We have a different opinion. We are different in this area, but it doesn't mean that either of us are wrong.
Exactly.
We just have a different preference or a different opinion.
Yeah.
Same concept. Just broken down a little bit. Here's what I know. If people understood this, if they were more aware and respectful in those areas that they're different, and decide to come together and respect their differences, minor on the minor, major on the majors, we would not have jobs as marriage counselors.
Exactly.
And I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, if marriages were successful, then I could go and do something else.
Right.
You know? No problem. But this is one of the biggest things. It's the core and the root to a lot of what we deal with.
And yet, one of the easiest things to fix if we put just a small amount of work in.
If we are self-aware that it's happening, and then we decide to do some work at it.
Exactly. So I know this is going to come as a big surprise to our Love Lessons family here, but I'm incredibly dramatic.
No one knew.
Right. So here's my point behind this. Several weeks ago, I was getting some stuff out of our storage unit that we have for Revive for Christmas decorations. So you could put up the tree, the Christmas tree at Revive. And as I was getting it out of the storage unit, the big Christmas tree bag that it's in, I was pulling it out and I heard it start to rip. And I thought to myself, so help me, if this bag rips and this tree falls out, I'm going to absolutely lose my crap. Now, mind you, this is a pre-lit tree. It comes in 3 pieces. That's literally it. And the base, you stick it in. There's not much to it here. Had this fallen out on the ground, it wouldn't have been that big a deal. But that would have been what sent me over the edge. And so I told you about this. And you were like, yeah, Zach, I don't get it. And I'm like, I don't know. This is it. This is what's going to take. Like, here's the bridge and I'm about ready to jump. This is it. Right? And I know that I'm not the only person who experiences this. But the point of all of this is that we have to learn how to have healthy conversations around topics when we don't agree with something. If something is a big deal to somebody else, or if it's something that's really frustrating to you, how do we have a conversation around that topic while we disagree on like the content at hand, right?
How do we agree or even agree to disagree about things that send each other over the edge?
Yes. So we have a few examples today, a couple of ones that are kind of serious that can be an issue, and then also ones that are kind of lighthearted to let you know that you're not alone out there in Love Lessons land.
Yeah.
That everybody kind of experiences these things.
Yeah. So one for me is I really struggle. It really sends me over the edge. I'm really ready to do extreme dramatic things when I'm not prioritized. You are, and then these are things that obviously we've talked about because we have them, in our notes, but we've talked about them in our relationship as well. This is not new revelation.
Love Lessons confessions here.
But Zach is very busy, as everybody is, right? Like, this is not, most people aren't sitting at home eating Cheetos in their, beanbag chair watching, Cartoon Network. If you are, good for you.
Right.
But most people, have responsibilities and whatnot. But you have a lot of responsibilities. You're going a lot. You have a lot of things pulling at you. And I'm also, we'll say, needy in my affection. And not to invalidate the fact that I have needs, but there are some times that it's just you being my security blanket in some situations where I could be a little stronger or more independent, I'll say. And so as we talk through this, you can see that I'm not placing all of this on Zach, that he needs to make me a priority. We have talked about this, but I've also had to do some thinking and some thoughts behind the fact that, okay, it's not that I am not a priority because you don't want me to be. It's that I can't always be because there are so many things that you do that other things have to be a priority. For example, I can't decide that I should be a priority on a Sunday morning and I want you to go and take me to brunch when you're going to be preaching. Right? Like, sorry, Blair, you have to take a back burner because there are other things that you have to do that God has called you to, other responsibilities you have. Vice versa. Like, right. So you all can get where this is going. Sometimes I need to be realistic in my expectations of you and what it is that I need, and also get to the root of why I feel the way that I feel and what thoughts are motivating that feeling and any behaviors that come from that.
Yeah. Well, there's also value too, though, in getting to a point where you can say, like, okay, I don't feel prioritized here. Like, what is going on with you, right? Not that it's your responsibility to remind me of what my priorities should be, but especially, and we've talked about this before, as of late, like, we're in this really hectic season where both of us have, like, all kinds of stuff that are pulling on us, and we have, deadlines for different things, and there's always something, right? And there is value in being able what is going on? And, but if that request gets constantly ignored, then sure, it's...
Well, and we have to also understand that while things are crazy in your life too, we know that that's true, and it's pulling at you, it has to be a priority. It still has to be a priority. Other things are the priority at times, but spending time together and having your relationship has to still be on the list. It cannot constantly be put on the back burner because other things are more important. Or one day you will find that those other things that are more important are all that you have. Because you have not created a culture and or put the work in to creating the relationship that you need to have that is healthy, that is life-giving.
And then you're just two people who live in the same house and maybe share children.
And are more like roommates.
Yeah.
So that's mine. That's my serious, what sends me over the edge. What I have to do some self-talk on and pull back and realize, like, okay, this is likely a Blair issue that Zach might be contributing to, but it's not a Zach issue.
Yeah. So mine's similar to that. Mine is, when we're talking about something serious, it can be very easy for me to assume that you're being condescending.
Yeah.
And more often than not, because this is something that I also do when I'm trying to communicate something, my brain moves so quickly, especially when I'm frustrated about something, that I will intentionally slow down in my language because I'm trying to get my point across and not either A, stumble over my own words, or B, try to articulate what it is that I'm saying. And so it's ironic that I get frustrated because I do the same thing. But there are times where I'm like, she is talking down to me and she thinks I'm an idiot. When in reality, you're just trying to make sure that A, you articulate it, and that B, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? But when I'm being irrational and we're disagreeing about something, that is, I mean, how many times have I said to you, like, you don't have to talk to me like I'm an idiot?
Yeah.
And there have been times that you have said, what are you talking about?
And there have been times that I'm like, oh, I need to stop talking to him like I think he's an
Right.
idiot. I don't think he is, but
Yeah.
all of my body language would contribute to the, like, what did you mean by that? Like, girlfriend quit.
Right. So, and there are times that we do it to each other to be silly.
Yeah.
Right. But there are times where, like, that can be the thing that absolutely makes me just lose my crap and shut down. And that's when I have to start doing self-talk and be like, okay, Zach, like, she doesn't think that you're an idiot. You are overreacting to the situation where she's trying to express something and you're just not listening. You're listening to respond, or you're seeing it through the lens of your own frustrations and whatnot.
It's funny. These are the two that we brought up. It makes me think of the Love and Respect book series. I can't remember who wrote it. We can look that up. But mine, when I'm not prioritized, the book series, let me go over here, is very big on talking about women need love and men need respect. And it goes into details about that.
Yeah.
And mine, when I'm not prioritized, is more on the love side, right? I'm not made to feel special and loved. When you feel like I'm being condescending to you, that stems out of respect.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that those two things actually do fall in those camps.
It's interesting to me because it's like we are all unique individuals, still learning English, but at the same time, we have so many similarities, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, maybe on the last episode, that couples will come in and I'll tell them, like, listen, your situation's not incredibly unique. Your experience is valuable, and I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, but your situation in particular is relatively common, right? And this is a common theme. Maybe the characters and the names are different, but often the underlying theme is very similar.
Yep.
So.
So switching gears and going to humorous things that send me over the edge. My honey, my dear sweet man. Am I being condescending right now? Are you taking it that way?
No. I'm not even listening. I'm thinking about my other priorities right now.
Are you thinking about tipping?
Yeah, that's it.
Are you doing math over there in your head? I carry the one. Anyway.
Right.
Your lack of time management / procrastination That in itself drives me insane. You are a last minute guy to the extreme. But not only I'll figure it out and I'll do it later, but I'm going to think about it. The fact that I haven't done it and need to do it, and it's going to take up my energy and my time and my headspace knowing that I need to do it. So it's going to steal my joy in those moments because I'm still thinking about it. I'm just not doing it. And then I still wait till the last minute to do it.
Yeah.
Or
It's all true.
the whole like time management. Like when you get ready in the morning, you are the slowest man. I can get ready way quicker than you can.
Mm-hmm.
I can take probably close to 3 showers in the time that it takes you to take one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just don't get in there and start getting ready. You kind of like draw off and you look at your phone and then you kind of walk around a little bit. Like you just don't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
You just lollygag.
And a piddle.
You are a piddler. And like usually this doesn't have an impact on my day. Like you get your own self ready for work, right?
Thank goodness.
And then you leave on your own, and what your day scheduled with is you're accountable to that. But when it impacts me, whenever you put off doing something when you've got time that then later impacts what I have to do in my time, like if you could do something but you don't, then later you be like, oh, I have to do this day, and then it means that I have to take care of responsibilities at home or the baby or the children because you weren't smart with the time that you had. That drives me crazy. Like I'm ready to throw hands at that point. I'm ready to throw a chainsaw at you at that point because I'm like, I am then getting the repercussions of your bad choices.
Yeah.
But then too, if we are planning to go somewhere together, but we're leaving the house together, you will not get out of the bed even though you know what time that you have to leave, and you know it takes you longer. I get out of the bed before you, and I'm ready quicker than you, and you should be out of the bed before me because it takes you longer.
Yeah.
And so I know that I'm going to be ready before you, and that I'm just going to go do chores or go do something else that needs to be done or sit down and do some work, because we're not leaving until Zach is ready, and it takes Zach forever because you piddle.
Most of the time when I'm piddling, it's because the medication hasn't kicked in yet, and I literally don't know what I'm doing.
I could even say, hey, should you do this next? And then you're like, why are you telling me what to do?
This is
For valid reason, right? Like, who needs to be like, brush your teeth now? Like, you're not 4. However, when you're piddling around, walking around with like one sock on, trying to figure out who the president is, I'm like, bruh, go brush your teeth. Like, we got to get going.
I know, it's so bad.
So you don't want any assistance when you
Right.
can't do it.
Right.
So then you're just left to your own devices, which aren't working.
The devices are broken.
They're broken devices.
Listen, there are times that I will like stare at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I know that I should be doing something, but for the life of me, I don't know what that
Are you
is.
just staring like open mouth breathing?
Yes.
Like looking at yourself.
Listen. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a real thing, and it is real difficult in the mornings. Like my thinker just ain't thinking, and as much as I would love for it to be thinking, I am the worst.
Is that why it takes you so long to shower? Because you can't figure out what comes first, shampoo or
I
conditioner?
get lost in thought. I'll get lost in thought in there.
Well, there are times I'll go in there, I open the shower, I'm like, what are you doing? You're just standing
I am.
there.
I
And the
just
water's.
lost.
I'm like, are you not doing something?
No, I've been lost.
Like if I'm in the shower, I'm accomplishing tasks.
I
So then
am.
I can move on to accomplish more
I am
tasks.
I'm trying to figure out life. I'm not even having like shower thoughts. I am just lost.
Are you trying to figure out why they taught us y equals mx plus b and not how to do taxes?
There are times that I'm standing in there and I'm trying to get my brain to do what it needs to do so that I can, like, here's the shampoo, Zach.
Put the shampoo in your hand, Zach.
Right. It's
Also, I'm convinced that you're conjugating verbs in languages you don't even know in there.
That
But
might be
two, speaking of showers, is there a difference? Like, are there 2 groups of people when it comes to how they shampoo their hair?
don't know.
Like, quick aside here. Do you put shampoo in your hand and then you put from your hand into your hair?
Yes.
Or do you squirt the shampoo directly on top of your head?
No.
I feel like there's a small subsect of people that squirt it directly on their head.
I mean, what are you doing? Taking it like
Over your, I think so. I feel like was a commercial or a movie or something I watched, and it got me thinking, and I like looked into it, and some people were like, yeah, you squirt it on your head. And I'm like, well, no. But like whenever we give our baby a bath, I just squirt it directly on his head.
No.
I don't put it in my hand because I'm looking over it, and so I'll squirt it where I want it, and then I'll rub my hand and
Put it in
use
your
this
hands because it's cold. You warm it up before you put. Imagine if
Are
something
you serious?
Cold, yes. Imagine if something cold got poured on your head like that. You weren't expecting it.
My hand's not gonna warm it up. It's gonna go right from my hand
No,
into.
you lather it and then you warm it. Then you put it in their hair.
No.
What? You're out here freezing our baby to death.
Call CPS.
Love Lessons Confessions, number 83.
Anyway,
Blair freezes the baby. Speaking of freezing,
he takes a lot quicker of a bath than you do, though.
not when I'm giving him a bath.
No, because it's a task and you're getting it accomplished.
No, when I give him a bath, we just hang out in there and play.
Yeah, but even then, it's much quicker than when you
that's
take a
true.
shower.
I've been medicated by that point.
It's already worn off by that point.
I've still got a little bit at that point.
Mm-hmm. How do we get this medication in you quicker? Do you need to like put it in at 3 a.m.? Or do you need to like wake up at 3 a.m. and take it real quick and go back to sleep?
No, that sounds awful.
5?
Let's talk about your issues.
You're ready to move on, aren't you?
I'm ready to let everybody know how you're the worst. Here's the thing that's not a big deal, but it sends me over the edge.
Do you feel rage when it happens?
Burning hot rage. Mm-hmm. We have a gas fireplace in our living room. Mm-hmm. It's Blair's most prized possession.
She is the love of my life.
Part of the year and the air conditioner that we're on AC, we're not on heat, you will turn the fireplace on and it will get roasting in the house, and then the air conditioner kicks on because that's how thermostats work. And then you'll get cold again, so you'll go back and turn the fireplace on again. And I don't understand your level of thinking there. Like, if you're gonna turn on the fireplace, at least have the decency to turn off the air conditioner.
Am I allowed to defend myself now?
You're welcome to if you would like, but you know, it's amazing that I get so much flack for spending so much money on tipping when our electric bill goes to the roof because you...
Maybe it doesn't matter. They're going to cut it off anyway because you're not going to pay the bill. Okay, you were not wrong, but let me frame this up. Along with them not teaching us how taxes work, my brain does not compute if you tell me a left or a right.
This is true.
Like I have to think about it if it's a left or a right myself, and I have to pull up my L finger and everything. Yep, okay, that's left. But if you say your left or my right, you have lost me because I cannot do it. I can't even figure out what my right is, much less what your right is, right? So when you say that, I'm like,
so what's this
we're
have
just
to do
guessing.
with the air conditioner?
So, well, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
Getting there.
You have to take a right first to get there.
Your right or mine. So, what they didn't teach me in school was how to use my right and my left correctly, but also how thermostats work. Because when you say turn it up or down, my brain does not know if up means good or bad. If up means we want more air or less air, more heat or less, like I don't get it. And I grew up in a house where you didn't touch the thermostat. Like that movie Daddy's Home 2 where the girl touches the thermostat and all the dads get together like it's sacred. No one can touch the thermostat. Yes, that was the home that I lived in. And so I don't quite know how they work still as an adult woman, right? I confess this today. And it wasn't until you explained to me that like I was causing it to be colder by the air, like that I was causing that I was like, oh, Like didn't realize that was what was happening. And so since then, I've gotten better. Would you agree with that?
You've tried.
I've tried. There are times that it's just cold and you just got to get a little bit, but I have tried. I've tried. I just need the heat. I just need to stand in front of the fireplace.
So our fireplace is a gas fireplace with an electric switch. So you just flip the little switch and the fireplace comes on, right? So you've got that down. But here's
I know how to flip the switch. On and off is okay for me.
I know how to flip the flip out too. We have a Nest thermostat.
Yeah.
Literally spins, and you just tell it what temperature you want it to be in the house.
I want the temperature to go up, but more than that, I want the hot heat from the fire on my body right then.
But if you're going to do that, I don't care if you crank the AC up and you set it to where it doesn't kick on till it's
I don't know
80
how to
degrees.
do that. You're asking me to do things that I'm not qualified or trained to do.
Because it's internet connected, can you at least have the decency to text me if I'm not around and say, I want to turn on the fireplace. Will you please make sure the air doesn't come on? I feel like that's not that difficult.
I could do that. There are days I look at him like, can I turn the fireplace on? And you think, please, sir, can I have some more?
Right.
Like, I have to ask permission but it's because I don't know if it's acceptable temperature and or it's going to mess the homeostasis in our home up.
Here's what's really funny is that, like, I just have a sense about it. I could be in another country. And I know that you have turned the fireplace on.
He will text me, is that fireplace on? And I'm like, dang it, how did he know he's not even here?
There are times that I can be, so we have like an open concept living room and kitchen, and the rest of the house is kind of like separated off. And so like I can be like 3 rooms away from this big area and I can just tell. And I'll like bust out and it'll be 1,000 degrees out there.
It is hot.
And then the air conditioner's kicked on.
Yeah. Nothing that you have said is wrong. You were 100% right.
Hear about my toxic trait, though? Because I also have issues with this fireplace. I don't leave the air on. But what I do is that when I get cold, I don't get cold very often, but when I do get cold, like, I have cold down to the bone. I'm convinced that
the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
I'm convinced that I have been frigid since the year 1783. And so I will crank the thermostat. This is usually like in the middle of winter when, it's January and there's snow on the ground. I'll turn on the what's the word? Fireplace?
Don't ask me. I don't know any of these.
I don't know any of these words. I'll turn on the fireplace and I will stand in front of it and it will take forever because I am so cold, but then I'll finally get warm. But because I do nothing in moderation, everything, it's roasting by the time that I finally realize that I'm warm. And then I'm like, I am so freaking hot right now.
You do this in every area of your life.
This is true. I do nothing in moderation. I am so hot right now that my skin is melting off. Satan is in this room with me, physically present. I can feel the flames from hell burning me right now. I am so hot. What is going on? So I'll go stand out on the back porch to cool off. But then I wait too long.
And then you get cold.
And then I'm cold, and I just repeat the cycle.
The cycle, yeah. I think your problem's worse than my problem.
No, because I'm not, sending our electric bill through the roof.
Yeah, you absolutely do that. But I'm going to tell you, when you turn that on and it gets hot, I'm usually okay with it. I don't usually say anything. I let you do your cycle because I'm getting warm. I'm getting fireplace time out of it. I'm benefiting from this. So I'm like, scoot over. Let me have a little stand there.
The point to all this is that we must recognize that we have differences of opinion on these things, and it doesn't have to cause separation.
Having a healthy conversation around the serious but also the humorous things that drive us crazy about our spouse.
And learning to laugh about it.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to the humorous things, like in the grand scheme of things, in 100 years, the fireplace and the thermostat, it doesn't matter.
No big deal.
Right.
Yep.
We're going to be dead and gone anyway. Nobody cares.
We're going to be cold in the ground.
Right.
Body's going to be rotted away.
Our arguments may live on in love lessons
be in heaven
forever. But that took a weird, dark turn.
I mean, it's true.
I mean, I guess it's a good turn. Hallelujah. We get to, worship with Jesus.
I'll fly away, okay?
That's not theological.
No, it's not.
Here's a fun fact.
We already had one of those. We don't need another.
Here's a thought then.
Okay.
If you worship at a church where you sing the hymn, I'll Fly Away, go look that up and tell me where you find that in Scripture. You're welcome. We have got to wrap this up, and I've got to get out of here.
Where do you gotta go?
Just like at home, you have turned the heat on, and it is sweltering in the Love Lessons
It's not
studio.
that hot.
I am sweating.
I need a heated blanket.
I just need you to quit.
If you give me a
I
heated
am
blanket.
revoking your access to the space heater in the Love Lesson studio. It has got to be 84 degrees in here right now.
I feel invalidated in my temperature.
I don't care.
Oh, we're jumping straight to that.
I don't care about your feelings about the temperature.
What can you do to fix my situation?
It's not my responsibility to fix the situation.
You're right.
What I can do is leave, because I'm not going to sit in these sweltering conditions.
You can only be responsible for your actions, right?
I care that you're cold. I don't care that you want it to be 1,000 degrees in here.
Understood.
We have to leave.
Okay, goodbye.
This has been wonderful. I'm so glad that you guys have been around for this. I'm dying. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Goodbye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Love Lessons Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.